Well, we've got huge news on the return of the Seattle Sonics, and I'll tell you what, this is happening. This is not just buzzworthy news, and a lot of it's because of the economic situation that the NBA is in, but we're committed moving forward. We're going to be talking about this a lot. I know both of us and a lot of you out there would love to see our beloved Seattle Supersonics come back to the Pacific Northwest, but make sure if you haven't subscribed to the channel. We'll be talking a lot of Sonics. As any news comes out, we'll be dropping it to the channel.
Definitely.
But let's talk about the news that came out this week, and it is quite big. First one being that a $2.5 billion figure has been released anonymously. Someone by the name of, I don't know, something Silver. I don't know who dropped it. But anyways, the fact they're putting out a number, a fee,
price tag,
some feelers, I think that's huge. You know, ESPN's reported that, you know, obviously this would be released to all 30 teams. And like we said early on, this is real because of the economic shape that the coronavirus has put the NBA in. They are hemorrhaging money right now, and $2.5 billion for two franchises would go a long way to help.
Absolutely. I mean, $5 billion total. We're talking $166 million per team. And keep in mind, these price tags do not get divided between players. These are purely divided between the existing NBA teams. So when you're hemorrhaging money the way they are, and you're looking at the opportunity of getting $166 billion as a million, as a team owner, it's kind of a no-brainer. So we've talked about, obviously, you know, the silver linings. And we all knew the Sonics were going to come back eventually. Seattle, I think, is the 13th biggest media market. It's just one of those that, as a sports league, you know, you don't want to be left out of a market like that. So it was a matter of time, but things get sped up when money gets involved.
As we've talked about on this show, the big thing in the past was, well, you don't have an NBA-ready arena. That's no longer a problem with Climate Pledge Arena being ready for the new NHL franchise in the Seattle Kraken. So how does that fee add up to past ones? So the Brooklyn Nets were purchased for their expansion fee. It was $2.35 billion for the new ownership group. So that's what they were purchased for. My favorite one going back is Mark Cuban. His fee for the Dallas Mavericks was $285 million. So
Steals.
Cube's coming up big in the clutch again.
Big time. Yep.
But, you know, who's this ownership going to look like? There are two ownership groups out there. Ownership group one, who we think is probably the one that's going to be at the front of this, is Chris Hansen. You may remember the name, as he was the name that wanted to build the Soto Arena instead of revamped Key Arena, as it was once called. That also has Nordstrom money in it. A guy by the name of Russell Wilson that you may have heard of is involved in that group. And then we've got the Oakview Group, which is who purchased the Kraken. They're who did the Climate Pledge Arena. It's kind of sounding like David Bonderman, a lot of those guys involved in that group are interested in really joining forces possibly. And we heard some news we'll get into from the Seattle mayor that, hey, when it comes to an expansion fee, money's not going to be an issue.
Exactly, man. And you look at the names that we've listed off in these ownership groups. You know, shout out to Chris Hansen, man. This is a Seattle native who has been involved in trying to bring the Sonics back for over a decade now.
Consistently.
Very consistently. And you got to love it, man. Especially being a native. You just love to see that. You love his focus and determination. You might also recall he was the benefactor in attempting to purchase the Sacramento Kings not too long ago. I think the Nordstrom brothers were still involved with that bid as well. And now in the most recent ESPN article, they did say David Bonderman wants to join a bid. So you think about these names. Chris Hansen was ready to spend, I think it was a 1.5 on the Sacramento Kings, if I remember correctly. So add a few more names to that. What's an extra billion? These guys are not worried about that. You look at the way Seattle supports their sports teams as well. As an ownership group, that is everything you want to see. If you're going to invest your money in bringing a team to a city, you want to know that support's going to be there. And, I mean, with the success Seattle sports has, too, I mean, there's very, very likely that you're not going to be a bottom-dwelling team. It just doesn't happen. You are in a beautiful city. That goes a long ways in attracting free agents and retaining players as well. So, that ownership group right there is It's truly incredible, and you love what they're doing. This is going to happen sooner rather than later.
Well, you can put me down for $100. I'll join the ownership group as well.
Easy. Yeah.
We can figure out some sort of, Kickstarter, whatever we got to do. But it sounds like the money's there. Other news, big news that came out. So we heard about the expansion fee. And then yesterday, we actually got a quote from the mayor of Seattle. It's Jenny Durkin. She went on King 5 TV in Seattle and said that she felt, quote, pretty optimistic about the idea that the Sonics could return after speaking to Adam Silver on the phone just before Christmas. She went on to say that Silver let it slip that the league was exploring expansion and that Seattle would be at the top of the list. She said that she's met with him on a number of occasions over the years. She was a guest of his at games in New Orleans when she was in town for a conference. So it sounds like those two have built a relationship. Like you said, the NBA knew that the day was coming. I think before COVID-19, we all thought, well, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, the NBA wasn't in a rush to do anything. But the fact that those two are talking right before Christmas, and that Silver would go as far to say that, yeah, we're talking about it and Seattle's at the top of the list, it gives us a lot of meat in this. This thing is real. As we've said before on this show, that it's real because anytime money gets involved, especially with professional sports, we know that that's going to be a huge motivating factor. And the other thing in this is they're going to do two teams. They're going to do two expansion teams.
Yep.
So if they get $2.5 billion per team, that's $5 billion total, which the NBA desperately could use. And it's going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. I mean,
no doubt.
We're obviously interested in the Sonics narrative here. But Vegas has shown with bringing in the Raiders, bringing in the Golden Knights, they're now ready for professional sports. T-Mobile Arena down there where the Golden Knights play is an NBA-ready arena. And so I think we can stop the narrative of, oh, Seattle would be nice and it could be Vegas. Like, it's those two teams.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Vancouver. I'd love to see Vancouver get a team again.
Definitely.
I don't think it's likely. I think we are going to see Seattle and Las Vegas. But what I want to talk about is what a realistic timeline for all this is.
Sure.
I know these are not realistic or normal times right now. And so the NBA is now in the meat of their schedule. How soon could we actually see basketball being played in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you have to keep in mind, like you said, these are not normal times, right? The money is important to the league right now. That is the foremost focus for them. So realistically, how these talks are heating up, I mean, I think, earliest case scenario, earliest absolute case here, we could see approval this spring, early summer. If that happens, I think Seattle would be asked to kind of expedite structuring their organization.
And bank transfers.
Yeah, get the wires ready. The wires usually only take 24 to 72 hours, so that should be okay. But they're going to be asked to expedite the process. And I could see an expansion draft and being ready for the rookie draft after next season.
Yeah.
So the summer of 2022 and being ready to play ball at the start of the 22-23 season. Could we see it a season later? Of course, but I do think that is our earliest outlook of if things move at the fastest timeline, that's what we could look at.
Can you imagine? I mean, the Kraken will be coming to the NHL next season, dropping the puck at Climate Pledge Arena. Could you imagine if shortly thereafter we were getting Sonics basketball back in the Pacific Northwest? It is a storyline we're going to continue to follow. Any breaking news we get, we'll be posting videos right away so you guys can stay in the loop. But I can tell you what, I am so excited to watch the green and gold take the court again in the Pacific Northwest.